Hello astronomy students, this is Mr. Stockbridge. In this brief video, I'm going to be walking you through the techniques for the second part of the Planetary Orbits Lab. Specifically, we're going to be looking at steps 5 and 6 in the section where you're plotting the orbit of the moon. The directions are there in your lab manual. It's a little difficult to figure out just from the wording, so I'm going to do a very basic demonstration of the technique in such a way that I don't give away any answers for you. So here on my paper, I've completed sort of the equivalent of step 4. You'll have several data points plotted on your piece of paper. You'll have polar graph paper, but here's just a blank piece so that it's less crowded and easy to see. I've got 1, 2, 3 data points. So those are the moon locations that I will have plotted based on the data provided in the lab. And now what we're going to do is step 5 and 6. Basically what we're looking at is there is a circle which will pass through all 3 of these plots fairly closely, and we're looking to find the center of that circle. This is actually a very easy geometric technique. What we're going to do is we're going to use a compass. Now, if you don't have a compass, you don't need to go out and buy one. They're like $1 or $2, so it's not a big deal if you have to. You can do this using a piece of string, but you have to measure that very carefully, and that can be a little bit tricky. So if you have a compass, if they're only $1 or $2, or if you have a compass you can borrow from somebody, that's the preferred method. Now, the distance that you have to set for your compass here is very specific. And that was done when you made your calculations a couple steps ago in the lab. So when you calculated D average, which looks like it's back up there in step 3. Sorry, had to look at the manual again real quick. You're going to set this distance to D average. That has to stay constant or things are going to get really sloppy and not work so well here. Now that we have that, and we have our data points plotted, we're going to find the center of this circle. The technique is very simple. Take your compass, and you're going to set the point on one of the data points you have plotted. You're then going to take it, and be very careful that your point stays there, and you're going to draw an arc. I hope that's dark enough to show up on the video here. You're going to repeat this process with each of your data points. Now see how there's a region here where the 2 overlapped? That's a good thing. That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to do the 3rd point now. And now what we have done is we've narrowed it down to a region where all 3 arcs overlap and close off a space. I'm going to shade that in just so you can see it a little bit better on the video here hopefully. But it's this region right in here. Now we aren't done with the compass yet, so make sure that distance stays constant. What we've just done is we've figured out that the center of the circle, which passes through all of your data points, and here we only have 3, but you should have a bunch of data points for the lab, and even though we're only doing 3 arcs, it should work for all of the data points you've plotted. Somewhere in that shaded region is the center of the circle, which will pass through or approximate, kind of do a best fit thing, all of the data points you've plotted. Now this might take a little bit of trial and error. That's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my best guess that the center of this region is about what I'm looking for, and we'll see if I'm right. It might be just perfect, or I might need to shift around a little bit. But I'm going to draw 1 full circle. Ooh, hey, look at that. Passed straight through that data point. That's a good sign. The pencil's losing its lead here. Oh, I passed a little bit outside that one. My paper is trying to fold up a little bit. Just make sure that center point doesn't shift and that the size of your compass doesn't shift. I think mine did just a little bit. Oh, that's pretty good. So see, we passed through this data point perfectly. We passed just a little outside of this one, a little outside of this one, which means I can do better. I could probably shift this around a little bit. If I was a little too far this way, then maybe instead of having the center here, I need to come towards this direction a little bit. Now, one mistake you already saw me make here is that before you lift your compass up after drawing your circle, you probably want to take a pen and mark that center point, because that is the center of your circle. That is the key location that we are hunting for here, and that's going to allow you to complete the calculations and measurements in the last couple steps of the lab. That's basically it. Now again, you don't have to use a compass. You can use a piece of string as demonstrated in the other video on the Planetary Orbits Lab, but that is kind of problematic. It's kind of annoying. It can be done if you have to do it that way though. Totally your choice. Hopefully this was a good demonstration that will have you well prepared to really knock out the second part of the Planetary Orbits Lab and have a good plot of the orbit of the Moon.